Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Thomas Reviews, and this, funnily enough, is the first time that I've done a Thomas Reviews video where it's not a Blu-ray or a DVD, and it's also a recent film. I see that I haven't done many recent films on my channel and I think I better get onto it because you'll probably start to think I don't see anything new, but I do. And I'll be doing a 2014 video later on in the year, looking at everything I've seen that is a 2014 release, my favourites, the worst, blah blah blah. So anyway, today's film is going to be Interstellar, which is definitely one of the most debated films in recent times, and especially of the year. Very divided with the audience. People are loving it, people are criticising it, and for me, I really enjoyed it, and we'll get into why very soon. Just a quick note also, there won't be any spoilers in this review. There may be little tiny spoilers, but nothing that will give away much in the film. So the first thing I'd like to talk about really is the plot of the film and what it's about. Basically, we're set in a near future where the world's crops and food is on a shortage. It never outlines that if it's just America or the world, but I would assume it's the world. So the film is centred around Matthew McConaughey's character, Cooper, who lives on a farm and is an ex-astronaut. Cooper's 10-year-old daughter Murphy thinks there's a ghost in her room, leaving messages in the dust, and later they discover that this gravitational force in the dust is leaving binary codes, which is directions to the secret NASA mission that's going on. And later on, they stumble across this mission led by NASA, which is led by Professor Brand. Basically, the mission is to try and find new habitats on different planets, led by Professor Brand, who is played by Michael Caine. And basically from there, the film is about the mission, about trying to get back, and all the other things that go on later, which I shall not spoil. First impressions, the experience in the cinema for me was fantastic, and I just loved it all. The surround sound, the scale, the journey, the visual effects, and of course the emotion, which I'll talk about later. Everything was just great. I didn't get to see it in IMAX, and I can only imagine how great it must have been to see in IMAX, and that's one thing I really like about Christopher Nolan, because he really gives you the sense of scale, and he believes in a cinema where it needs to be seen on a big screen, and that's exactly what IMAX is all about, that experience of seeing a larger than life thing on a cinema screen, and it's quite important, and I'm glad there's still filmmakers like him about trying to achieve this through film. So yes, I wish I'd seen it in IMAX. There is no IMAX screen near me. I don't think there's one in this country, to be honest. I have no idea. Before getting into the film more critically, without spoilers, I'd just like to generally say I love my experience with the film. Any of the flaws that are there, which there definitely is, and plot holes, I did not pick up on them at all when I was watching, and the ones that I did, it didn't distract me from viewing. And it's simply because of all the emotion and the thrills and the tension. Everything just works so well, and it didn't affect my viewing at all. Visually, this is possibly Nolan's most embellished film, and it looks gorgeous, with very clear, obvious references to the sci-fi epic 2001: A Space Odyssey. I'll not go into much detail about that because, it speaks for itself. I won't bother making the comparisons. 100-foot tall waves and space crashes and explosions are to be seen in this film, and it gives you an incredible sense of scale. Again, with the IMAX, it's all the more reinforced. The editing of the film, of course, also plays a big part with the film visually and in its tone. And again, linking it with 2001, several moments have us just focusing on one sound effect, which we know in 2001 done, and even Gravity achieved that last year, whenever we just had the focus on certain sounds, or indeed just silence. In the film we have just the sounds of people breathing, then we have no sound at all while we're watching all this destruction, and it really does create a different kind of atmosphere when you're watching, and you just look straight on at the explosions happening when there's no sound, and you can just kind of imagine it in your head what the sound might be like, and it's accurate to space because in space no one can hear you scream. Moving on to the music, Nolan and Hans Zimmer once again team up, using cinema as a visual and oral experience, thrilling your senses to the bone. The music is both poignant and emotional, but it's also very bombastic and thrilling in the scenes that are going on, and it's certainly one of the best scores Zimmer's ever done. Now to talk more critically about the film, I'd like to bring up the critical reception the film has received. There are many who have pointed out the scientific flaws and plot holes, including professional scientists and physicists for and against the film. And I don't know much about science myself, so I can't really comment that deeply on it. But there has been quite a mixed reaction. Some people saying this is true in the film, this is accurate, this is scientifically accurate, this isn't scientifically accurate. Now, there are obviously, even with my experience, I can say lots of it wasn't real, and that's the whole point of the genre, and that's the thing people aren't seeing. Nolan did plenty of research scientifically in order to try and get a very accurate and convincing kind of story. And it's not just that he wanted to make it convincing, he just wanted to bring the audience into it without it being too ridiculous. And it's not perfect in places, but people need to accept it for what the film is. Science fiction, not science reality. Science fiction, the genre has always been about exploring different ideas of scientific exploration, civilization ending. It's always been about, even since Metropolis in 1927, it's always been about things that could be, not things that are. That's the important thing. People are missing out and saying they don't enjoy the film because of this and that. And the flaws, honestly, the flaws aren't enough for me to not enjoy the film. And it does mix science and reality quite well, or sorry, science and fantasy quite well. And that's what Nolan wanted to do, and that's exactly what Nolan said that he wanted to achieve with this film. And so yeah, I think he combined this very well. And the thing that really makes the film an enjoyable experience is how emotional it is. Nolan is always accused of not being a very emotional director. However, I think Memento is quite an emotional experience. This is definitely his most emotional. This is Nolan at his most human and most sentimental, showing that he and his brother can achieve a more human story in film. What I really enjoyed is how the film took a while to set up, and I've heard some of my friends saying that the intro was too long or the intro was too short. It was quite a long intro, and I really liked that because, it's relevant later on in the film because that's the problem with Gravity. With Gravity, we just went straight into the characters. We didn't have any backstory. With this, it sets up the backstory in order to give a shit about Cooper and his situation, and it all becomes more relevant in the voyage because it's all about, it's the whole purpose of the voyage. It's the thing that keeps him going. It's the sort of thing, it's very human in that respect about what keeps us alive, what keeps us living, our loved ones, civilization, all that sort of thing. And that's the themes that are explored in the film. Again, there's so many themes in this film, and one viewing isn't enough to pick them up, and that's what makes it really great. And I look forward to rewatching it again. And so, yeah, the emotion of it, just beautiful. Some scenes made me cry. I do want to talk about a scene, but I don't want to spoil it at the same time. And yeah, well, that's it really, Interstellar. That's a brief look at Interstellar because it's a huge film. I recommend heading over to Razor Wire Reviews. Luke, he done a near hour long deconstruction of the film, which is quite impressive for a first viewing. And he also did a short version, so definitely give that video a watch if you have the time. And overall, I'd just like to know what you think of the film. Did you think it was scientifically flawed to the point that it wasn't enjoyable, or did you find it a thrill ride like I did? Just comment below, everybody, and until next time, I'll see you then.